Hey guys, and welcome back to another video, and you'll see a slight change to the video structure in this midweek if you are coming or returning from 2024. As you'll see, I am diverging a little bit into more Supercoach content, so we are combining both the cash cows and the trade targets video. I guess I might put it as just the trade targets video and name it that. But that is for fantasy. This one will be fantasy related. And then you'll have the Supercoach one after it and the hour later, so that you guys get both of those sides of things, as it will be similar, I will say that, but also different because of the pricing mechanisms. So you'll see that, you'll see the differences there, and that's why you will probably see a slight change. So anyway, let's just jump into this video. So I thought the best way to probably start this is to give you the cash cows and then move on to as we did in the trade targets last year, do major trade-ins, maybe trade-outs, etc. from coaches. We'll see the coaches' view and we'll go off that and give you that opinion there. So this one's probably going to be 25 minutes or so, I feel like, but we'll just go through the players. So Max Hall had an 82 on 2 goals. I didn't get to watch this game, right? And I was trying to find the best info I could on his role, and it seems like a small forward role. And I'm just wondering here, because looking at this, right, you've got Lindsay, you've got Nevitt, who are all within 20 of Max Hall. But I think their floor is 20, 30 higher than Max Hall's floor. And their ceiling is almost 20, 30 points higher than Max Hall itself. So I'm just like, Max Hall could easily drop a 40. Something like that. Easily drop, look at this. Like, he's going to go up mad if he goes 61, 61, 61. Let's look at that. But say it's Xavier Lindsay. If he goes 70, 70, 70, does pretty much the exact same thing. And I think that's more capable of Lindsay to do that. And then if we go down to Levi Ashcroft doing 60s as well, he goes up mad. So, and then I also just want to look at Nevitt here as well. He's not projected to do much, which is quite concerning because Brisbane, St Kilda, Brisbane, Melbourne, so they all give away quite a few. So I'm intrigued about why the scoring mechanism has him down in the 40s, projected 40s, but Max Hall in the 60s. That's an interesting scoring mechanism. But I'm just wondering if Hall's role, is he going to be able to actually keep up the scoring or whatnot? And yeah, it's just interesting because if we look at the DFS, the St Kilda, you'll see, I don't think he wasn't involved in the CBAs here. No involvement in the CBAs at all. So there's that. Then you look at his heat map and you'll just see that I think it was, if we look at the, let's go game by game and then we can just sort of show it to you. If we look at the heat map for, where is he? Max Hall here, you'll see all on the wing and half forward. There's nothing in the center here, which is a little bit concerning. And they do have wingers back as well. So this is very, very concerning. They're coming up against a Geelong side who's going to rope them. So they're going to get absolutely smoked by Geelong, who look on form this year. So therefore, I have a feeling with the wingers coming back, like Liam Henry coming back, Hall could, and I'm not even joking, like if we just look at the injuries, AFL injuries, let's look at St Kilda's injury list because they're one that is evolving each and every time. So you got Mitch Owens a test, and then you've got Liam Henry a test. So you got 2 tests, right? And so yeah, Boxall and Keeler remaining in there. But it's still without Butler. Butler's 2 to 3 weeks away. And Sharman inside 50. So you get another winger back. If we look at the AFL lineups as well, and we'll go through that and show you the round 1 lineup for the St Kilda Saints. It's down here. Is it here? Yeah, here we go. So you got Brad Hill and Woods. Brad Hill didn't turn up in the injury list here. No, didn't turn up. They didn't add anyone to the injury list, which is probably a good sign for them. You got Zach Jones there as well. And you've got, where is he, on the bench already? Liam O'Connell and Hunter Clark here. I think Hunter Clark's coming back. I want to say he's coming back from an injury, but could be wrong. So I'm just really concerned about the makeup of this list if they are going to have with this. And I'm concerned that Hall could his role just drop away very, very quickly here. Darcy Wilson also should probably be playing on the wing. as well. So that's another winger. They just have an abundance of wingers and almost small forwards itself. So it's just a very concerning job security, I would say, with Maxwell. I know he kicked 2 and he looked great, but yeah, I'm just concerned about that overall. So there's that. I just want to also bring up the when he kicked the goals, because that could be critical. I just want to double check that I'm right in saying that it wasn't just a last quarter blitz. Let's just double check this. First quarter, he had 24 points. Second quarter, he had 24. Third quarter, he had 20. And last quarter, he had 14. So he was on 48 at halftime with 2 goals too. Take out the 2 goals, they're 30. What's that? 36. He's going to go up in cash. I'm just wondering, how much does he go up in cash? What role does he have exactly? And because wingers can go sort of 55 to 75 is the range that we always talk about with wingers. Small forwards, it's more like 45 to 55, if not 45 to 60. So I'm like, which role is he going to get? Because if he gets that winger small forward role, he's probably going to go 60, 55. Whereas if Nevitt can get the on-ball role, etc., he's the one that I'm really intrigued about going big. So anyway, I've sort of talked about this quite a lot, and you'll see here there's no one coming back for the likes of Geelong anyway. News for Conway as he increases his training loads, but he's still TBC. This is a horrific injury report still. TBC is on 4 guys. But yeah, that's nothing returning for Geelong. It's probably a good sign for SDK. Anyway, moving on, because I've talked about Max Hall, the top guy. Camporelli, this is an obvious one for those that don't have him. If you don't have him, he's a winger that's going to get a lot of ball, and also the fact that Chera is moving back into the backline, which should help their ball use, because it was awfully horrendous. And he put up 20 touches, 3 and 5, so he's going to be fine. He's going to make cash, and he's the obvious one, I feel like, over Hall, who has that half-forward role. And Lucas Camporelli has a lot better job security because Carlton don't have as many wingers. So that's why I think he's better. Xavier Lindsay, I think this one is a better choice than Max Hall because he's more in the backline, which cheaper ball, and especially Xavier Lindsay, he's a great user by foot. So he's a guy that I think does really well, and he's got a 94 in his system, which, yeah, I project him to do really, really well. I think this projects him to do really, really well as well. That's 138 plus 58 is 188, 196k in the next 3 weeks would put him at 550k and be almost an upgradable asset at that point. Corey Warner, I wouldn't be selecting just because he has the bye coming up, and that was a freak performance by him. I think 2 goals, 15 touches. These kind of combination games is what you expect out of a small forward. So I don't expect him to. I probably should have started with him, but I don't expect him to gain too much more cash. Harry Boyd has that number 1 ruck role for at least another 2-3 weeks, you would expect, until King comes back. Because even with Owens back, I don't think they're going to want Owens as that number 2 ruck, so especially first week back. So Boyd should still be playing, which is good for the cash generation there. Ethan Reed's on the buy, so no point grabbing him up. What is he even priced at? He's priced at 265k, so he could definitely be interesting as a forward target in round 2, but then again, he's a ruckman, so I don't expect him to do too much. Zach Reed, if you didn't have him, I don't know why you wouldn't. He's like 70% owned, isn't he? 63% owned, so he's an obvious one. What's Hall's ownership? Hall's ownership's 26. Lindsay's is 15. Talked about Lindsay a lot, and that halfback role, wing halfback, is just a lot better role. We saw McKercher do it last year and average 80, so that's what he can do, whereas the small forwards, they... let's just look at... Rochelle had a 100, I think, in this, and I can actually show you this right here. Rochelle, and I will flick it to fancy here, but Rochelle had 100 in his first game, I believe, in 2022. A 105-goal effort from this sort of similar position. If we look at, it's going to show slightly different, but look at that comparative to Max Hall. It's not the most different, I would say it that way, and he kicked 5 and he had 100. We look at the next couple of weeks, and obviously there was cash generation there from him. I don't know exactly, but you can see that in the next couple of weeks, next 8 games, he averaged 55 and just didn't do it, even with goals there. So that's what I'm worried about Max Hall, is something like this happens. He still gains cash, but he's not the knockout pick, whereas like Nevitt and guys like that and Nevitt, Foz and guys like that who have the ability to have a role change where they go back behind the ball or on ball, those are where the points are really scored, I feel like, comparative to the small forwards and stuff like that. So that's where I'm concerned about Max Hall. But maybe Max Hall just is a pick that I'm glossing over. Moving on, Levi. I think this is obvious. I was lucky enough to change into him, so before he got on because of the sub, he was named in the best 22. So I think he's a guy that holds, especially with their couple of outs as well. Lohman looks like he's out for a while, so maybe Levi does have a role change, but I also think he's just good enough that against the Eagles and Richmond and Geelong in the next couple of weeks, he can go 80, 80, 80, and suddenly it's like, okay, he's 500k. Just like that, 550, 600k, just like that. So, and he's not even doing anything too damaging to be sort of a guy that you hold. You could easily just flip him on to be the... But I'd probably still hold it at that point, 4 or 5 weeks in, if he's going 80s. But yeah, he's a guy that's going to go so quickly, I feel like, upwards. Hanley probably has best 22 now for the next couple of weeks, just because until Sydney gets some guys back, just because he looks really good in that small forward role. But just like I said with Corey Warner, he's going to have up and down games, so I'm not going to be selecting him, I don't think. Constanti, same thing. Basically, you want the guys on ball, the Hewitts, the Davidsons, even the wingers. You want them over small forwards. Murphy Reed, basically, if you take out that 4-goal blitz, he does nothing. So I would be trying to not trade into him per se. And then you've got Davidson, Stone, Nevitt, and Trainer. All these guys are guys that I think you definitely need to be looking at having. You've got Davidson at 54% owned, obvious pick. He had a little bit of a down game, but still 55. You're still going to be generating cash. He's still got a 5 break even. He's going to go upwards in cash this week, next week, etc. Like, he's still going to be gaining 40k a week or so from 40s. So, yeah. If he gets that up to 60s, then he really starts to go. So I'm pretty happy with him. He's going to hold his spot, I suspect. Connor Stone, you can use him as a loop this week, and he's projected to go 23, 24s. But we kind of expect that to not be the case and him to average 50 or so in this role. So, yeah, I think he holds at least for the foreseeable future. He was VFL Player of the Year. I don't think he's going to get dropped just yet. Mitch Nevitt, definitely a guy that I peaked in preseason saying, oh yeah, he's really, really good. The only concern for him is probably that TOG. That's the only concern, but yeah, I think he's a guy that is best 22 for them and is needed in that midfield just to strike that balance. And he's got that role that we want, and role points, I just think he's a guy that, I know he's got extra cash on his head, which makes him almost a mid-pricer at this point, but I feel like he's the guy, 480k. If he goes big for 2-3 weeks, if he goes 80, 80, 80, he's probably going to go up to 650, 700k almost in the next 4 or 5 weeks. And suddenly that's a guy that you can, with a rookie, get up to $1 million player, just like that. So definitely a guy I think you want to jump on. And I'm more, even though he's 200k more than Max Hall, I think Nevitt is fieldable compared to Max Hall, who I would want the emergency on. And I've already started to get the emergency on some guys like Camporelli, Davidson, who play early in the round. So what's the point of having a Max Hall when I feel comfortable fielding a Nevitt? Trainer, you can probably just put at D6. He's going to get better. I thought his last quarter was pretty good on the weekend, Thursday night. But I also think that Zach Reid will be a guy that Zach Reid and Pryor will be guys that definitely do better in the foreseeable future. Henderson, McStay, Aiden Johnson suspended. Lawler, I think, is a guy that you can probably go without. I know 68 looks great and everything, but you've got just guys moving quicker in terms of cash generation. So him scoring 60s has him going 40, 40, 40. And also, he did kick 2 goals. We don't expect him to kick 2 goals regularly. He might kick 2 goals on the weekend, but I don't expect him to kick 2 goals regularly. And so I expect him to be sort of this 60s guy. And I expect Levi Ashcroft and Lindsay to be 80s guys for the next week or two at least. So they're just going to outrank Layla in cash generation and points on field for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And that's all that you really need out of these rookies to a certain extent to just get the season going. So that's why I'd say Layla is behind Nevitt, behind, he's slightly behind Nevitt still, I feel like. And so, yeah, there's that. Hasty is probably a guy that you've got to move on for just because he got subbed out of the game, even though he was on fire. Yeah, would have loved for him to not be subbed out of that game, because that would have made, I think, he would have scored an 80 and have been in a really good position there, but that sucks. Decoding, we'll talk about in the mid-prices. And then Bice and everyone's getting towards the... Bice is probably a guy that will be on the bubble in round 4 going into round 4 effectively, because he has this game and then the bye, and then we'll see if he's best 22 after the bye, because if he's best 22 after the bye, he's the guy that I can probably get off of leak, is what my consideration is, if you remember my side. He's the type of guy that I can get off of leak, because if we look at the defenders, break-evens, etc., or point scoring for defenders in terms of the 200 to 300k range, look at this and you see Zach Reed already got leak, was a terrible last round here, you'll see, and look at this. So we're hoping for an Al Hawley or something like that I can trade a leak off of soon or something like that. But yeah, I'm hoping one of these guys pops up in the next week or two that they're like 250, 260k, and I can trade off of leak directly and just make that fix up there and get that cash gen flowing in that D8 spot. But anyway, I think that's all for the cash cows. Now we move on into the normal trade target segment, and I've gone 16 minutes, which I think is perfectly fine for the first part of it. So let's go to ins, and I kind of expected this. I kind of expected almost this exact order of things. Decoding 1, 2, 4, people see the mid-pricer go off and they go, got to trade him in. Here's the problem with Decoding. He had 40% ruck contest or so, give or take, like 5%. That's fine. He scored a lot of his points on the ground, which is good, but he is coming up against like multiple dual ruck. Dual ruck here. Then he comes up against Gawn, the best ruckman. Then he comes up against Riley O'Brien and Lloyd Meek. So he's coming up against ruckman that he's probably going to have 20 hit outs per game for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, give or take. So he's going to have to find a way to basically be a midfielder outside of that can get 50 to 60 points, I would say. Well, probably 60 to 70 points. Can he be a normal midfielder and get 70 points or so? And I was trying to talk this with some people that was like in chats with, and trying to figure out what does he need for each? Can he go 10 kicks, 10 handballs, that's 50 or so, and then have 4 marks, 4 tackles? Is that what he can do? Because if he can do that, that's 20, 28, 48, 78, plus the 20 hit outs. That's 98. That's massive. Can you even have him doing 10 kicks, 5 handballs is 40, plus 4 and 4, that's 68, plus the 20 hit-outs. That's right on brand. That's what we need. So I think you can get him. He can be a 15 disposal, 4 mark, 4 tackle player with 20 hit-outs against dual rucks like Boyd and stuff. And Boyd's also a guy that I feel like SDK, if he can look at the mold of what TDK is, and I don't know their height difference, but if he can use what TDK is doing, and Sam DeConing height, what's he, 204, and you've got Tom DeConing, who is 204 as well, so they're both 204. So if he can use the sort of leaping action that TDK has, I think he can almost get over the top of these sort of more physical rucks. And I think that's the way he can do it, to get the 20 hit-outs that he needs there, get the 4 or 5 tackles that he needs. Because if he does that, that's already halfway basically there, plus the disposals he's going to get. So it's going to be interesting. I think he also had a very, very favourable ruck matchup in terms of Reedy and Jackson, even though Reedy and Jackson kind of dominated. And they're a dual ruck as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. I think if you're correcting from Taylor on field, that's where you go to a Decoding. But if you're correcting from like a Perryman, I'd be more interested to get the Lindsays, the Ashcrofts, the Nevets in, who are all low-ish ownership, 6% for Nevitt. Then you got Xavier Lindsay, 15%, Levi Ashcroft, 63%. So you're going to need these two guys over a Sam DeConing versus Perryman debate, I feel like. Joel Frazier is ownership as well. We talked about these two in the rookie, so we'll skip over them. Joel Frazier, I think very, very similar boat to Sam DeConing. We're looking off one data, And I think I put out a tweet, I want to say, let's just say here, I talked about Max King for next year as well, just putting that out there. Here's the tweet that I put out last night. I don't want to correct a correction. Now, let's look at this in terms of the fantasy side of things. Joel Frazier, okay, he was going, I think, and I think MJ talked about this last night in a video. I rarely watch other content creators too much, but I did like the way that he phrased it in terms of what was happening in terms of Joel Frazier in the first half against the North. If we look at Joel Frazier's stats, first quarter, 13 points. Second quarter, 17. So, at that halfback role, he's getting 30 points per half. Give or take 30 to 40 points you would expect. So that's a 60 to 80 role. When he goes on ball, he does really well. So it will be interesting to see his role next week. Does he get that half-back role where he's going to score like a 60-80, or does he get that on-ball role where he's going to score really well? Because if he gets the on-ball role, he's still got a 40 break even. 100's not going to get too far away from us. 100 maybe gets him up to like 700k, and he's a direct swap from Perryman on both platforms. We'll put that way quickly. But if he gets that half-back role, he goes 80, doesn't do much. Perryman goes about the same. You've basically just wasted a trade for maybe like a difference in a cash generation sense of 45 break-even points, which is like 30k. You put a trade for 30k and like 5-10 points. That's not valuable comparative to getting a Nevitt over a Finn O'Sullivan on field, which could be 50 points or a Never over a Hasty, which I know it's like 230 odd K or whatever difference, but say a Never over, not Never, I keep thinking Never. Say a Lindsay over a Hasty. Lindsay scores 90 points, Hasty gets 40. That's 50 points on field already that you've got. Plus you've got probably, I'd say, about 40k already in that 1 week. And then that's going to exacerbate each and every week going forward. So that's why I'm saying about Perryman, going off of 1 week of data and trying to pinpoint either the mid-pricer, whose role is iffy, with both SDK and Joel Frazier, or going up to the top 8, top 10 defender, like a Holmes or Stewart off 1 week of data where they smoked a team. It's very, very tough, especially with outs and stuff like that. And Geelong don't have anyone coming back in this week, so they'll get the same role. But over time, you'll start to see those roles potentially shift. So that's why I want 1 more week of data, and I'm going to get those rookies who are going to gain those 60Ks, and that's why I put out this this other tweet here. Where is it? After all this one here, which has gained a lot of traction here. This is the tweet that I'm saying about Perryman here. 60K cash generation from Hall, Lindsay, Nevitt, etc. is more critical than trying to get pinpoint the and then I also talked about the rookie on a cash gen bubble, which is kind of reference to Supercoach, but more fancy related. But anyway, because you kind of are on the cash gen bubble after 1 week in fantasy. But yeah, that's me forgetting to sort of differentiate there. But that's why I don't really like the Frazier and Sam De Koning picks after thinking about it for a couple of days. Maxwell we talked about. TDK, I think this is just people trying to correct. I don't know exactly how through, but let me just check the outs here because I don't actually know how they're doing this. Meek. Okay, I get that. I get that. You're correcting there and you're getting that done sorted quickly. So yeah, that makes sense. And Marshall as well. Yep, that makes sense as well. Marshall's break even. He's going to drop like fly. The role's changed. For him, Meek's also got an early buy there. So I understand the Rucks moving that around there. Okay. Nevitt we talked about as well, kind of in the rookies as well, but I just really like it. Bailey Smith as well, forward line. I just think you have to. Luke Train as well. He looks like the one defender that gets good job security and stuff. Jai Simpkin, I think this role is one that can go pin-potting around. Like, he's got the same almost role to a certain extent as a Hugo Garcia, just with more time on ground. Like, he had an extra, 8%, 9% time on ground to Hugo Garcia and scored an extra 70 points. So, obviously, he's going to be a better player than Hugo Garcia scoring-wise, but he could also drop a 70 next week, and suddenly you're looking at a guy. His role just isn't there compared to other forwards, I would say. I'd rather go to a Rankin who I suspect is going to get 50% CBAs rather than a Simpkin who looks like 20, 30%. And they're both roughly the same price, within 30k of each other, I think. Caldwell, I really like this maneuver. This is one that I've actually almost considered in a way. But then again, he also has that early bye. He's got that bye there. You can probably get him in round 6 or so. I'm considering him in round 6 or so when we get before DPPs and stuff like that. He could be the avenue up from like a Day or potentially Callahan or an Oliver if Oliver continues to fail. But yeah, interesting. He did really well, but I think he's going to crash down to earth. I think people are also points chasing there at the moment, and I'd rather consistent, sustained form there. Henry Layla, we're starting to get to the guys that are really not as traded in as we really should be considering. And then we get to the trade out guys. Perriman, I understand if people want to trade him out to... Here's the thing. 92 break even. If he goes to 78, he loses 5k. Who the heck cares about that? I'd rather lose 5k, 10k or something like that to know who I want rather than having to use another trade. Like 5, 10k isn't as valuable as trying to fix up that trade that you've already messed up and you've already that's already another trade, arguably 2, that you have to use. I would argue that it's almost you're wasting 2 trades in a way, comparative to when you because you're using one trade to get Perriman to save Fraser, and then you're using another trade upwards alongside the downgrade that you're probably using in that set of trades that week to fix him up. So I'd argue you're losing 2 trades for maybe 5k, 10k, 15k. Is that really that valuable? And I know some people will come out with the etc. the pros and cons of that and saying it's not exactly 2 trades because you have other benefits that you haven't or opportunity costs that you haven't included, but it's sort of on that level. So that's why with Perriman I'm considering holding, because I think this is his floor game, and we've seen players put up 40s and stuff like that. So I think Perriman's fine. Taylor, fully understand this. A lot of people had him in utility or the bench slot. I basically had that, so I had the ability to just take that cash generation he generated, 83k, move it on. And so yeah, that's what I did. And it's allowed pretty much a correction trade to a almost mid-price in the midfield, which we'll get to tomorrow. Hugo Garcia, I think you can hold on for another week, but also if he allows you to make a maneuver, like if he allows you to get to like a Nevitt or something like that, which is very plausible, I think you can use it. But I think with the forward status, I think you can hold for another week. He's still got a really good role, or a decent enough role. His TOG, a little bit annoying at 61%, but I think that picks up, to be honest, this week against Geelong. So I'm not too worried about that, to be honest with you. Ash, Leak, Cornerstone, all these buy players, obviously you probably got to move out of some of these guys. Leak, I don't know who you're going to exactly, mate. I just think that there is probably better guys that you can change to. I know that I'm holding him for another week just because I don't want to have to get in a defender. And I'll put it this way. Leak, I'm happy to hold because when you get the loophole through seeing 7 defenders, 2, I don't know which defender to trade to. Because what about if we get... Because the only guys left for the defenders are Bice and O'Connell that we've seen, right? What about if we get an Al Hawley debut this week? What about if he goes 60, 70? And suddenly you're looking at a O'Connell who goes 40 in the back line versus people that jump on Al Hawley who will be pretty much the same price as Leak if he was to go 60. So that's what I'm considering there, is just hoping that we get a 230k guy. Or do I have to just spend some cash to go up to a Bo Allen in a couple of weeks' time or something like that? Or I can even just hold Leak as a red dot if he doesn't play for a couple of weeks, just waiting here. So I know it's a red dot. It isn't cash gen moving, but if you think about all the other defenders in the defender line, there isn't much cash generation. If we go to defenders, and we go to general stats, and I know this video is going a while, but if we go to 200Kers, look at this, 34, 18, 10, 5. Not much. And I have the top 2 guys. Bice, he's on the bye coming up soon. Liam O'Connell could easily, he played 71% for that, so I don't think he's going to do too much damage. Then we go 300Kers, 21, 17, 10, 2. You're not going to pick up Draper, O'Sullivan at the inflated price that they are. So the only guy I'm realistically missing out on is Jackson Pryor, who's got a 21 break even. He could do well. So that's the only guy I'm missing out on in terms of the whole defender field. Luke Cleary's concussed as well, so you can't go to him. None of these guys are too interesting. So there's just no one I really have to change to at the moment. So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts with Leak and how even though he isn't moving himself, I'm missing out on 20k cash gen per week at the moment with the way that these 20, 30k per week at the moment if he doesn't play. If he does play, he's going to get better than 14, I feel like, so that's not too worried. Anyway, this is going way, way longer than I thought it would, so let's just continue on with the outs. Connor Stone wouldn't be training him. Hasty, his cash in is dead compared to other players in the same line, which is what I was comparing to with Leak. So that's why Hasty is a trade out, but Leak isn't for me. Simply put. Langford sub, so you got to go. Riley Sanders has enough cash on his head that he has the ability to go to someone, which is my plan next week. Hopefully. But yeah, Riley Sanders is a guy that I'm willing to hold for another week because these mid prices have a role and a reason that there's a role there to go and score a 90 plus. So I think he could do that. But next week he is definitely in plans to get rid of to get Perryman up. But if Perryman if Frazier is good in that backline role, which could happen, I can get to hold Sanders or something, or move Sanders on to another cash generating rookie, something like that. Yeah, so I'm not too fussed about that, to be honest with you, with Sanders. He gives a lot more flexibility. Meek O'Sullivan, I wouldn't be trading him out. I am maybe trading him out in Supercoach just because I need the cash to get to Lindsay and Ashcroft, because O'Sullivan's cash gen is kind of stalling compared to them. But also that could be a bad move in general. Yeah, that is what it is. And then Callahan wouldn't be trading him out just because he's on this buy. He's going to make more cash and he's going to be a really good player because that's what he is. He's the guy that we've seen after 2 games now. We got a cheeky look in. He's got a role change, but he's also got natural improvement. He is getting that ball at will at this point. Marshall, definitely understand that. Surprised it's not more, to be honest. Surprised he's not down to like 5% ownership, but I guess he might be just a dead pick for some people, or people holding on for the forward DPP that he's going to get in round 6. But that's still so much away. That's still, if we think about it logically, right, he could drop 300k in that 5 weeks there. So yeah, I'm just trading that out there. Trading it out right away. He's going to drop, what's that, 70k if he goes 105 average for the next 3 weeks, and he's not going to do that. So yeah, I'd be trading him out. Hewitt Kruskeski. Hewitt, I think you hold. I don't know why people are trading him out. He's got a 26 break even. He's going to get better. He's going to make some cash. Like, if we look at this. His break even, if he just goes 50, he starts to really generate some cash. And I don't know why it says 26 here. But if we think about that, he's probably going to gain 40k per week for the next 4 or 5 weeks and be 550k. He's got a role there in that midfield, and you'd expect him to, if we look at the, I think he's got a role. I'm pretty sure he's got a role. Let's just look at the CBAs for West Coast here quickly before we end this video off, which has gone well over time, sadly. Hewitt 23% CBAs, and he's going to get better. And they were trying stuff out, and I don't know when his CBAs came. Let's just look at that quickly here. I'm hoping it's not the last quarter when they were trialing stuff. But anyway, if we go quarter 1, West Coast, advanced, I want CBAs, not ruck contests. So where's CBAs? There. Let's look at it. In the first quarter, Hewitt had 0 CBAs. Second quarter, he had 3 CBAs. Third quarter, he had 0 CBAs. And fourth quarter, he had 4 CBAs. So he's in and out of the role. I don't think it's as bad as people are sort of trading him out for, because he had in quarter 1, 0. I don't know, did he play quarter 1? What did he do in quarter 1 that he just didn't do anything? Let's just see. He had 59% in quarter 1 for a 0. He had a 0-point quarter, and he still managed to get, outside of that, like, he did all right. If that 0-point quarter turns into a 10 or a 15-point quarter, which is honestly reasonable, he goes 60 and he starts making cash. So I'm not too worried about him. He's also at an inflated price at the moment that you can easily trade him in a week or 2 to someone else. So not too worried about him at the moment. But anyway, that is a large video, a very, very big video. But I thought this is probably going to be the way it is generally, because trade targets and cash cows are sort of 20-minute videos each. So a 30, 35-minute video is probably the way it's going to go. Supercoach is probably going to be shorter because I'm just going to be repeating half the things, since that's usually the case. But Supercoach, I want to keep it short and concise as well for you guys. But anyway, that is the video. If you did enjoy it, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload. If you are listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there. And I will see you guys for the Supercoach trade targets video next. Bye, guys.